Morning, everybody. Welcome to Poised this morning. Poised is the name of yellow tea. By the end of this session, you're going to have a deeper understanding of yellow teas. You will have heard about a major miracle, and you will have more information on how the tea market is behaving in China. So let's go ahead and start right on in shop news. And shop news covers what's going on in China. Because of drought in certain places, because of a change in the overall world tea market, and also a change among farmer attitudes, premium tea is undergoing a change in terms of availability, particularly availability outside China. There's less being produced. That's offset a bit by less being consumed in China as Chinese make some other decisions about either grade of tea or how they're going to consume a tea product, whether it's a ready to drink bottle of tea, which of course you wouldn't use the highest grade to make that, or heaven forbid, if it's a boba tea, also, none of you would drink that. So this is making the entire market a little bit crazy in China. Also, there's been a significant drop-off in orders outside of China. And so the result is everything is topsy-turvy. And so I really don't know what next year is going to bring in terms of the entire market. I do know this year things are still hideously expensive, but I mean, we've all seen that inflation here, inflation there, all over the place, right? So that's what's happening in the China front. Climate change, soil depletion, same old pattern that happened here. So plants that used to produce a certain nutritional profile, some of them are producing less nutrition. And that's, again, because soil changes. Now, where they've taken good care of the soil, like the Wui Mountains, or like the place we're going to talk about today, the Jinzhai Mountains, it's not been that sort of an issue. But these are the trends that we should be looking for in the future. And actually, Chinese scientists are already on it as they analyze various varietals, plants from various locales. And so we're beginning to see some very good data related to that. We haven't gotten to miracles yet. I'm in the mood for a miracle. So let's talk about $10,000 Yixing clay pots. Number of you have those, and all of you have reported enjoying them, making sure they're well protected, making sure they're insured. You've gone through all the steps. The last person who bought one about 30 days ago was just beginning to be in the process of trying to get insurance for it when the following happened. They were actually home when this happened, but not in the kitchen. So the way their house is set up, there's a kitchen and there's laundry room behind it. So apparently in between the two, a fire started. Nobody realized there was a fire until everything in the kitchen was being consumed. Now, this lady had put this beautiful pot in a magic place in her kitchen on a stand. And so she first ran out of the house and then realized, wait a minute. Where's my
cat, my cat.
Yeah, exactly. And this was a real easy decision. I'm going to run back in the house and get that thing. She just bought it. The sad part of this is that at that moment, the fire was already too hot. Smoke was billowing everywhere. Out of the roof was on fire. Firemen from several places converged on the scene, sprayed gallons of water. The roof over the kitchen and the laundry room and another part of the house collapsed. But they saved the very back of the house. So this lady, all during this conflagration, was thinking about this pot. And with heavy heart, when it was all clear, she walked into what used to be the kitchen with a new skylight. Oh, a complete skylight. So what does she see as she's entering the area? The stand is still there. The pot is still on the stand, as if it were untouched. This is better than any fire insurance. This pot survived this. She's used it. It's in great shape. So that was an interesting story that walked in yesterday. And we were both fascinated when we heard this story. So enough of miracles, enough of the situation in China. Let's get down and be poised. Poised is a yellow tea. Now, everybody. Oh, there is one more thing I need to talk about. Sorry about this. This is a digression. And this regards all of you, because most of you who've been with us all this time, one of the things, the very nice compliments all of you got from a scientist in China was all of you given, because he's seen quite a few of these videos. He said, all of your customers who are regular are qualified to open a tea shop. And I said back to him, I said, you don't even imagine. They know more than most purveyors of current tea shops. And he said he wasn't surprised. So kudos to you for absorbing all this information. And I just wanted to pass along that because I was moved by what this scientist said in China. All right, now let's get down and be poised. Yellow tea, you got green tea, you got oolong tea, black tea, red tea, and white tea. And then you have yellow tea. Most of the tea drinking world outside of China has not still heard of yellow tea. In fact, most tea shops don't carry it. And if they carry it, they carry one. Very rarely you might find a second. So is the scarcity related to the fact that almost nobody makes yellow tea? Or is the scarcity due to a distribution problem? I'd say it's a bit of both, because they make nearly all throughout China, if you combine all of the producers, they make near 1 million tons of yellow tea. Who knew? But most of it doesn't leave China. And that's because it's mostly consumed near the areas where it's made. And it's consumed, and actually in China, it's become a very big rage these years because there's all these alleged health benefits associated with yellow tea. So after all, what is yellow tea? Is yellow tea aged green tea? No, I don't think that's correct. Has yellow tea maybe been secretly around for over 1,000 years? So let's start with that misconception. And I'll tell you why during the Tang Dynasty, let's get ourselves situated again, around 618 to around 960, give or take a year or two. During the Tang Dynasty, in around the 700s, late 700s, a gentleman wrote about yellow tea in China. Was this the same type of yellow tea that you're about to have today? The answer is no. Was it even close to the process? No, the process hadn't been invented. What it was certain varietals in one specific location in China through a gene alteration, a natural gene alteration, started producing yellow leaves, yellow tea leaves. And the tea was made using green tea process, but it was called yellow tea. So that's one of the reasons there's a misconception that yellow tea was made so much longer ago than it was. Yellow tea, we don't know the exact time that that process started. Current belief in China, which I have no reason to doubt, says probably in the late Ming Dynasty. So that would be somewhere between 1580 and 1635. Now, that's different than what I've told you all of these years. And this is new research that's being unearthed. How does new research get unearthed? Well, you dig up a tomb, and as the documents, you collect documents, you go through the laborious process of translating, and suddenly you realize, hey, maybe, just maybe, there was this process already started at that time. And why can't I directly argue with it? I can't argue with it because you remember from 1361 all the way to 1635, there existed a prohibition on making tea cakes. And so we were in prohibition. And you know, during prohibition, all the creative attempts to do new things. So it is possible that that happened, even though I've always told you it was later. This seems to be what current research is suggesting. Yes.
When the process of yellow tea was developed, how did it get the designation of yellow tea?
So this questioner asked a great question. The question is as follows. We have all these colorful names for tea: green tea, black tea, red tea. How in the world did anybody come up with the name yellow tea? Was that suggestive of anything? Or did it refer to wisdom from the Yellow Emperor ages ago? The answer is no on both counts. So yellow tea directly got its name because the leaves, as they went through this process, tended to end up greenish, brownish, yellow. And it really depended on how long they went through the thermochemical, non-enzymatic oxidation process. Oh my gosh, I used a lot of big words just now. Don't worry about the meaning of those big words yet. We'll get to the meaning of those big words in a minute. But really, the process and how long you did this, in quotes, sealing the yellow process, in Chinese, manhuang, and that thing is translated in every sort of way. My current favorite is sealing the yellow. I really, really like that translation because it really refers to that transformation between the green and the eventual greenish, brown, or yellow that comes out of yellow tea. Now, it sounds like I can't make up my mind, greenish, brown, or yellow. No, that's not it. In a minute, when I describe seeding the yellow process, you'll understand that if you do it for only 2 or 3 hours, it's going to be more greenish. You'll have non-enzymatic oxidation. There's no question about that. But the leaves won't be that nice, bright yellow. If you do it for 12 hours, you're going to get bright yellow leaves. If you do it for 36 hours, you're going to get yellowish, brownish leaves. So there's some standards, not standards as much as there's reasons why you have this wide variation in color, but it comes from the same exact sealing the yellow process. So let's go through this. When you pick, everybody goes through pick. Yes, but here already we have separation. Either a bud pick, like Junshan needle, or a small leaf pick, or a large leaf pick. Now, it sounds like I'm just talking about aesthetics. Oh no, we're going to find out this is much more than aesthetics. So you pick, you make that designation, what you're going to pick, and the designation comes by region and locale. So if you're in Yueyang or you're on Junshan Island, you're not going to do anything except pick the yellow buds. If you're in Anhui, where this tea comes from, you're going to make some choices. You're either going to pick small leaf or large leaf. If you're in Zhejiang, same thing. This stuff grows in Sichuan. Sichuan is basically small leaf yellow. The large leaf yellow tends to all be wild. Therefore, it's never been touched, essentially. Touched by contaminants, pesticides, or anything. Because it's wild. And it's an afterthought. And the processing of that is done slightly differently in one step. And we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go on after we pick. We pick, how about let's do some withering? We don't have to wither for very long. We wither. And after we wither, we want to kill the greenness, so to speak. This is a funny expression because you're not doing anything to the green color. But what you're doing by frying or processing the tea leaves under high heat is you are denaturing the enzyme, which causes oxidation. Got to do it because it's the same start as green tea. You do that. Hey, what if you want it to look a certain way? Well, you have two choices. As you're denaturing, you can roll in the pan, usually by hand, or you can wait till all the frying is done, and then you roll, either by hand or machine. So you shake, right? After shaking, we seal the yellow. Now, what does seal the yellow really mean? So in some form or another, you're either going to do it in wet form or dry form. So let's take wet form first. You're going to take leaves that have maybe 50, 60% water or moisture content in them. You're going to either wrap them. Usually in the wet form, you don't so much as wrap them as pile them and cover. And you're going to control whatever happens because you're going to have them in an individual room that's heat controlled and humidity controlled. Now, I call this the wet one. So that means there's high humidity. Hey, what temperature are we using? We're using anything between 86 degrees and about 122 degrees, somewhere in that range. How does the farmer decide that? By custom, by tradition. There is no manual which says, Betty Crocker book of yellow tea leaves, do it at 86 or 88. No, that doesn't exist. There is this range that they do it. And realistically, when you think about it, since it's grown in so many regions, but really small amounts per region, not a huge number of farms per region, they all develop a local custom or local habit for doing that. So after you do that for X number of hours, and again, the farmers by region have different habits. So some farmers do it for an hour. Unwrap, fluff the leaves a bit, maybe roast them slightly, and then rewrap and repile. This is more the piling. You do have some wet process where it's wrapped, and it's usually wrapped in 2-pound packages. That's much more labor intensive. You have to be much more on the ball with that. When you roast, what kind of roasting temperature are you going to use? Light, 186, 190, maybe 176. You're going to be in that range. What are you doing when you roast? Are you roasting for fun? Well, I guess if you really love your work, you're roasting for fun. But normally you're roasting to get the moisture content down gradually, gradually, gradually. And then you go back to piling. And as you pile, you're going to pile up to 6 hours. Do the process again as unpile, fluff up, repile, and you're going to do it until your region's customs say stop. Do you care? Are you looking by region at the color you're achieving? No, you're not. Yeah, well, wait a minute. Let me back up. Yes, you are, but you're not bothered if it's greenish, if that's the habit of that region, or it's bright yellow, if it's the habit of that region, or it's yellow brownish. You do it to what your experience tells you to do. And as you're undergoing these different reactions, the tea leaves keep getting yellower until about hour 12. So if you do it until hour 12, you're going to get a more yellow leaf. So we've seen lots of yellow leaves, particularly, well, we've seen them both with dry and wet processes. So I said there are two processes. With the dry process, an example of the dry process is Junshan needle. What they do is instead of such high humidity, they use a lower humidity. And yet what they do before they even start the process is take more water out of the leaf. So instead of 50 to 60% moisture, not water, moisture in the leaf, they start out 30 to 40%. And then they aren't very humid. They're hot, but not humid. Oh, and by the way, they wrap theirs in some sort of secret paper, which nobody will share with us. They give us these vague answers, and then we ask specific questions. Oh, you mean wax paper? And everybody pretends like they don't understand. Everybody asks one, what's wax paper? Let me look that up. Oh, no, not that, not that. And then they give this whole long explanation, which neither the tea master nor I have a good English translation for. We know it's special paper, and we've seen it from a distance away. You know, that's the other thing. Oh, it's the stuff over there. And you look over there. Can I go close? Oh, we're time constrained. Trust me, it's that stuff. And so that's an IP for Junshan needle. And they wrap it in that paper, and somehow that interacts with the heat and what humidity they do use to control the final output. And by the way, they go through this process for a full 3 days. And yet they can go for a full 3 days and still have greenish. They can still have yellowish, very yellow. And if you ask me, what's the exact methodology or reason that they're able to do that? You know what? I'd have to use words that I rarely use in these discussions. But because I'm wearing this truth article of clothing, I have to say, I don't know. I really don't know. We've asked before, and we've heard the answers. but I can't explain them to you in a way which would make sense, because then you'd start asking me questions, and I have to say, I don't know again. But I've seen the end results of that. So I said wait a minute, let's go through the rest of the process, and then we're going to make one more differentiation. So at the end, everybody wrote, whether it's wet process or dry process, whether you rewrap things every 2 hours or every 4 hours, whether you've done 12 hours or 16 hours or 6 hours, everybody at the very end roasts the tea, because you got to get that water content down to under 5%. Otherwise, the tea will be. Now, in the beginning, I said you have bud, yellow process leaves, you have small leaf, yellow process leaves, and then you have large leaf. So is there a flavor profile you can latch onto so that with your eyes closed or blindfolded, you would know, oh yeah, this is either bud or small or large? So indeed there is. When you have large leaf, what you do at the final step of roasting is much longer and stronger. So you get that flavor of popcorn or roastiness. That's how you know that that's large leaf. You never get that with small leaf. And with bud, heavens no. With small leaf, typically the flavor profile should be slight hints of sweetness. Whereas with the large, you get that roastiness. With the bud, you can get a little bit of both, but mostly not that roastiness. Yes.
Is roasting ever done in packets? And presumably maybe referring to Junshan needle?
No. So the question is roasting ever done in packets? No. They mix all the, particularly for Junshan needle, they mix all those together, and then they roast at a temperature which is somewhere between 190 and 222. And again, if you ask me how long they roast, not quite sure. Junshan needle, in terms of the actual process, must be classified as a state secret in China, because nobody writes in great detail. I've seen writers, tea writers, who write little snippets, and they always leave stuff out. Do you know why they leave stuff out? Because they don't know. Or even more hilarious is they make up stuff, and I'm sure it's made up because I know enough, both Tea Master and I know enough to know whatever is written in the made up part is not the answer. Because remember, we've sat with the top professional doing Junshan needle and asked questions, gotten answers, some of which I can't understand still. Doesn't matter. We know more about what's not done than what's actually done. But this gives you a feel for yellow tea that we haven't talked about in the past. All right, Tea Master is looking very thirsty. Oh, and she says I'm running over time. So, without further ado, on this yellow tea Poised day, it is my great pleasure to have Xiaobei demonstrate with you how to do both poised, how to stay poised.
Yes. Today, we do yellow tea, but also in Chile, I'm oolong drinker, but I like white tea. Green tea okay, but yellow tea, I enjoy it personally. This is also this is from the Anhui Hao, not from the Hunan. So we do this is still special. So I made the same in I perform same in China. I follow Tea Master in China. If you like it, the same flavor with me that definitely, but I use 3 glass. If you have the 3, it's best. You have 2, it's okay. But also this really slowly, low temperature, okay? So just help me.
Yeah. So this is the setup. Her tableau has 3 glasses, 16-ounce glasses, a strainer, and tea toys. All you really need are 2 glasses and the strainer. It's nice having the tray because you can pour all over and it's not going to get all over, but really all you need are the 2 glasses.
Yeah.
She starts out with the tea leaves. This is 6 grams.
Yeah, but also this what mean this called 茶针
Mm.
translated.
A tea needle,
This is called 茶海.
and that's a tea holder.
Yes, this is very important. Everybody have, but this for individual, they depend the size on your hands. This is very important. Not popular, but you look in the market, you look in the Amazon, check the size. So this is for me, this is my size, my hands. So easy, I catch. So yeah. Okay, I do.
So the tea master is going to start out by drawing 175-degree water, which she will then cool down and dissipate the steam so that it's no more than 170. Yellow tea, especially the yellow tea from Anhui, responds best to around 170. If you're lower, that's fine. If you're higher, it's better if you're lower.
This is same. It's copy the tea master in China. Same. Yeah. So high is yeah.
Yeah, this does emulate the setups in China when you see tea masters making this type of tea. The only thing that's not emulated is the size of cup. They do use glass cups, but not this size. Obviously, as a nod to Americans, we've supersized this. Yes, many times they can use that or anything that's about half to that full size.
Hey, take a look, so also, so for me, so in China, yeah.
And sometimes they use these tall glasses really for an aesthetic reason, particularly for something like Junshan needle. What they're attempting to do is get the needles to float up and down. And that doesn't work very well in the shape of our glasses. It tends to work better in this tall glass shape, but there's always some secret about that too. Whenever they bring you a cup, it's already been poured. You don't see them pouring it.
But this you cannot hold it, so it's hard for everybody. But for me, but I'm working long time, so it's easy, So this is really safe. We used to, it's really good. I like it. Send me out slowly. Really gentle. Okay. So water, becomes soft. Happy. Yeah, same kind. Yes. This I like it. So today I really want to listen. So this also, we put it here. I don't need to ask them. Okay.
So she's dissipating the steam, cooling the water, and not in a hurry. This is how you start out with tea rhythm.
This is same, yeah.
Is the water that you started out with did you start at 175 or 200 degrees?
This is
175.
right now start, yeah.
Ready.
茶针，茶海。 This is what we call shaking. Don't forget that this shaking is a special shaking. You know, that if everybody like it, you know, the same me, you know, also cover.
So she puts the cool water back in the kettle. The reason being, she can control the pouring spout so much easier than trying to do it off a cup. So remember, she's pouring on the sides of the cup, trying not to hit the leaves directly, like not to scald the leaves directly. And this is a 2-minute steeping.
Yeah, this is the on purpose. So still have the, you know, looking my, you know, the fingers. This is on purpose. Okay. So also, look at me. It's heating. I need hot. Right now it's cold.
So she caps off the 170 with slightly hotter at the top. And the real reason for that is because many of the leaves are hanging at the top. And so this gives them a chance, particularly if they're not really in the water, to start to be opened up by slightly hotter. Yes, and of course, taking a look, this is, you see everything, very nearly everything is at the top. You have 1 or 2 stray leaves that floated to the bottom. It's quite beautiful, quite beautiful. So this comes from the Jinzhai Mountains in Anhui. Jinzhai Mountains are south of the Yellow Mountains. There's a reservoir in there where this comes from. So there's plenty of water resources in this area. It is a beautiful yet remote area. Fun to go visit these type of farms. Most, this doesn't, let's see. This is not the most famous of the yellow teas. Junshan needle is by far and away the most famous because that's the gift that the Chinese government tends to give dignitaries when they like lighter teas. Speaking of lighter teas, let's talk a little bit about differences in nutrition compounds or differences in chemical aspects of this tea. So this is oxidized, lightly oxidized, and it's a non-enzymatic oxidation. Okay, timer's gone off. Talk about chemical constituents in a bit. Using tea rhythm, tea master is going to separate the tea leaves and the liquid. Not in a hurry, wants to get it right. Whoops. All right, so wow, this looks greenish to me.
Can you spell the name of the mountain region again that the tea is from?
Yes, Jinzhai. So let's enter the quality assessment. First off, take a look at the leaves. And then this is done at 170 degrees. So let's go ahead and take a sip. 170 degrees sip, as it turns out. And what you're looking to do is to coat the tongue. Since you can get more of the tea in your mouth, you're going to look for where's the astringency, if any. You're going to look for what the aftertaste is once you swallow. And then you're going to look for what are the energetics? How do I physically feel as I'm drinking this? And this, for some people, will be slower. Some people will be quicker that they're able to detect. It's all individualized with this. And therefore, you don't have to worry, hey, I don't have any feeling right now. That's okay. You will over time. You're likely to. So let's go ahead and start this process. So first time around, I'm really trying to solidify where it is in my mouth that I have astringency. I have astringency. I definitely have an after feel, more a feel than a taste. And I'm already beginning to develop a energetics feeling. So the after feel is more, and I'm just going to say it directly. Not all of you will get this, but I get an instant cooling. There's a cooling from the after effect of that. And that's in my throat. That's all I'm referring to, not the overall energetics, which he'll tell me. So the second time I do this, I'm not only looking to verify what I said was the situation the first time, I'm also looking, okay, what sort of aroma is there in this? And what sort of taste is there in this? Okay, I've made some judgments about it. It's your turn to brew with the tea master. So make sure your tableau is all set up. Make sure you set your timer for 2 minutes. This is bag number 1 called Poised. Sure you have your glasses ready. Tea master is getting hers all set up here.
我用这个做。
That's fine.
So right now, so but don't copy. This I borrow this my style. I work in China. This the 对哈, but also so same always 对 clean first, okay?
So this shows you some variation in how you can do this. It's harder to use a glass that doesn't have a handle, but you can. You just have to be prepared because
This is
there's
for
some
working,
heat.
not drinking. This is for not drinking.
Yeah.
For work. And we can see, this is the yeah. So this is second, so second, this called 滚动. Second, so also after, so cover.
So you're warming the leaves first
Yes.
by rolling the glass around and gently each leaf gets touched by warmth, right? And then you shake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a technique. Thinking is a technique. The very gentle. So yeah. Right now, so temperature. Control temperature. Okay. Everybody do so.
So this presents a different aesthetic.
See.
So it's the leaves are dipped down into the water even more so than in the shape of glass that we use here. And that's very cool. And they're kind of bunched up at the top. Now, we were talking about chemical constituents of yellow tea and what things in yellow tea, what constituents in yellow tea might be causing this belief now that yellow tea is very helpful? So, in terms of catechins, seem to be nearly as high as green tea. Higher, significantly higher, is the L-theanine in yellow tea. The amino acids, depending on how long they actually go through the seeding, the yellow process, will be higher or lower. Now, of course, that seems nonsensical. So let me link that with time. So if the time goes, it's like a bell curve. If the time goes to 6, 7, or 8 hours, that's going to be your height of sweetness. Once you go over the 8 hours, that bell starts to decline all the way until you get out there at 18 hours. And then it's not very sweet at all. And that's because there's fewer amino acids. Remember, in general, more amino acids means sweetness. More polyphenols means bitterness. So that's kind of what they have to play around with. Yes.
So some feedback from participants. The warmed leaves have a sweet, round malt scent that is surprisingly pleasant.
Sweet, round malt scents, the warm leaves, that is surprisingly pleasant. Love that comment because unlike green tea, which sometimes can be a little grassy or a little bit not as warming in a way, this is always warming, and you now understand why, because it's gone through the sealing the yellow process and it's gone through a roasting process as well. Yeah.
Another participant comments that for her, in addition to the malt scent, she thought of a red wine aroma, some umami too.
Oh, I like this comment also. Some umami-ness, almost like a red wine type of umami-ness. I like this comment because there is more going on with this, and there's more balance and variety going on with this than, say, a straight green tea where the flavor is dominant. There's a dominant flavor and it stays from start to finish. All right, so you should have separated the tea leaves from the tea liquor. And go ahead and enter the quality arena. And one of the things to note, and your comment just caused me to remember this, is that this is easy on the system. In other words, some green teas are not easy on the system because they have so many polyphenols, and it's a little bit harder on the system. This is ultimately extremely easy on the system. Easy to drink without much food in your stomach. You really don't have to have food. This is closer to white tea from that ease of being able to drink right off the get-go. Yes.
Another participant comments, no bitterness at all.
No bitterness at all. I'm not even a little surprised. The non-enzymatic oxidation basically wipes out whatever bitterness. And so when we talk about sealing the yellow, really what's implied is taking all the things that many people don't like about green tea out of the equation. So 0 bitterness, essentially, and just this very easy beverage to drink. Yes.
Another participant says, energetic umami, yes. And then for her, a forward alkalinity all over the tongue.
Oh, that's great. Forward alkalinity all over the tongue. I actually like this comment too. We're talking now in areas that really only professionals talk about. And they would know something like that. And that's why I am so surprised and pleased to have that identification. Yes, umaminess, an alkalinity over the tongue, a extreme pleasantness, no bitterness. These comments characterize truly what's special about yellow tea. If somebody says they don't understand yellow tea, you can use those comments as introductory to yellow tea. Yes.
Another participant says, I get a sweet corn and light umami in the liquor. The warm leaves were very fragrant of the same. Very smooth and balanced to drink with a little mid-tongue astringency for her. So first, sweet corn and light umami in the liquor.
Sweet corn and light umami in the liquor. Love that comment because that is the sweetness in particular is unexpected. You don't usually expect that much. So there's a couple things here from that comment that we know right away. We look at the color, it's tending towards greenish, right? So it's less on the sealing the yellow, and that sweet corn, hints of sweet corn, also indicates it's less, it's not more. What else was on that?
And
That
then
was a great
she was
comment.
getting something, a similar sense from the warm leaves, very a similar sort of sweet corn, light umami and the fragrance. And then she says, very smooth and balanced to drink with a little mid-tongue astringency.
There you go. Smooth and balanced to drink. There is astringency, mid-tongue, and that actually matches where it occurs in my mouth also, mid-tongue. Very mellow.
Another participant says, ironically, after my third sip, I sneezed. It is body cooling.
This commentator says, energetics cause the sneeze, it's cooling.
Participant says, I am spending almost as much time smelling this tea as I would do with a oolong. Love the scent.
Oh, this is a great comment. Yeah, the yellow teas in general have this range of scents that's unpredictable, much like the cliff teas or the oolong teas. Range of scents that are unpredictable. So spending the time kind of going to the garden, so to speak, is really useful with both the yellows and the cliff teas. Many of the other teas have a much narrower range. Our yellows have an enormous range.
Another participant says, I found the flavor to be bright with hints of a premium green tea flavor. Slight but pleasant bitterness for her. Some roastedness comes through as it cools. She adds it's juicy and refreshing.
Juicy and refreshing, slight bitterness, almost like a premium green tea flavor. This is a really interesting and good comment. And again, looking at the leaves, we know that it hasn't gone through 18 hours of processing. We know it had, and by processing, what I mean is sealing the yellow process. Of course, it's gone through 18 hours, but the sealing the yellow process has been clearly under 8 hours, probably something like about 4 or 5 hours. And that's why you get something like a green tea taste, but you also get that roast out there at the end. So, and the balance feeling. That's the other thing about this tea. And in some ways, it was really interesting that one of you made this comparison in terms of scents and cliff teas. And one of the things you're picking up is there are a couple compounds which are similar to the compounds in oolong teas. And Thea sinensis is one of those compounds which is very, very significant in oolong teas. It exists in these teas as well. So you're picking up elements, and you can see how in many ways this is kind of a bridge tea. And I would almost argue it's a bridge between white and oolong. rather than the green and oolong. One could argue either way, but the oxidation is greater than the white tea oxidation, and obviously the oxidation in the cliff teas is even more. So that's how I draw that bridge. You're going for green tea, it's non-oxidized, and that's why I did not draw it. But one could make that argument as well. So so let me see how I'm doing. Almost finished. If there are no other comments about this, then one of the other things I want to talk about is differences between regions. So in Anhui, you tend to have more of the popcorn roast flavor in many of the yellows. In Sichuan, you tend to have more of a sweetness, and then in Hunan, you get a mix. So that kind of gives you some sense. You also get a mix in Zhejiang province. You have this produced in Canton province as well. Yes.
Second cup, just verifying, second cup steep time is 1 minute.
Yes, so the steep time for the second cup is 1 minute. All right. So one of you is about to ask me, so I'll go ahead and answer before you ask me, why I chose Poised as the name for this. Because the sense of being poised implies balanced and in control. This tea has no uneven points to it. And that's one of the reasons when we drank this, Poised came in a nanosecond as the name for this. All right. Again, you all have provided wonderful commentary. Loved having this session. Your responsibilities this week are to stay safe. And I'll see you all for next session next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Morning, Steve. How are you?
Perfect.